Hi guys, welcome to this week's Silhouette training. Today's training is going to be on fonts. And you're probably saying fonts are so simple. Well, yes, that is true. Fonts are very simple, but I wanted to show you, number one, how to grab a font from the Silhouette store, download it, and then the many features we can do with a font, because this is going to help when we start creating signs and other projects. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. We are going to go ahead and go to Silhouette. So once we're into Silhouette right here, we're going to have a new project. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go to the store. So when you click on store, it will automatically take you to the Silhouette store. So let me get there. So once you come in, you will sign in. Hopefully you've already signed up for an account. Again, it's totally free, and it'll come directly here. So the nice thing about this, once you get here, if you haven't already explored the store, is it will actually have, if there's any sales going on, in the design of the week. But since we're going to be working on fonts, we'll go ahead and just hit our fonts. And there are so many different fonts. I mean, trying to explore them. There's premium fonts, craft fonts, all fonts. And if you look, if you hover over right here on the left, you've got different types of fonts depending on what you are looking for. We've got premium fonts, which are going to be the little bit more expensive fonts. So just be mindful of that. So if you know what you're looking for, if you're looking for a script font, if you're looking for maybe something more decorative, you can just select one of these on the right of it, and it will show you all of those fonts. So for instance, if we were looking for maybe something not script, something kind of plain, something simple, that's where this would be. And we can just start scrolling. And that's actually a pretty nifty font right there. So say, because there are, if you scroll all the way down, it tells you there's X amount of fonts available, number of pages. So for instance, say you're scrolling through and you're like, hey, I kind of like that font, not sure if I want to buy it. You click this little heart. It's going to add it to your favorites, your likes, which represent, which is the meaning of the heart. So if you can see, I've got 59 that I like, that I can come back to later. The nice thing about the Silhouette store is, you're like me, I am infamous for, I like this font. I downloaded, not realizing I've already downloaded it once. Nice thing about Silhouette the store is, if you've already purchased it, it tells you I own it. So you don't have to, there's not a risk in purchasing number one twice and downloading it twice. So of course we don't ever want to purchase things twice that we have. So that's just something that is a nice feature that they have. Oh, I kind of like this one too. So we can just scroll down. These are all going to be something not script. And just continue looking for something, you'll just go ahead and scroll to see what you are looking for. Now, a couple of things. They have a weekly steal, which means that this is, instead of paying $2.99, you're going to pay $1.50. So keep your eyes out for those. Also, they have the daily deal, which is, again, just another discounted font. So the other thing we can do is click on fonts, Oops, I was already there. So I want to go back to where it shows all the fonts. Oh, my internet's not cooperating. Bear with me. Okay. So right here on the left, you can actually sort by what's trending, what are the newest fonts. Do we want the newest fonts to the oldest fonts, vice versa, price, high to low, low to high, and popular. I highly suggest always, if you're not sure what you're looking for, go to the price low to high. This is going to, number one, if there's anything free, it's going to pop up first. If there's anything, for instance, these last chance fonts, say, I mean, there's just so many fonts, maybe, you know, you don't get a chance to see them all. This is a great way to see what is about to head out the door and you're not going to be able to purchase. And if you notice, these are like 75 cents. So they're discounted heavily, again, because they're trying to, they're not going to be available anymore. So they want you to purchase them. And then of course you can continue going on and you can see some of these are 99 cents. Again, we've got some weekly steals for $1.12. And then you can just go through these and look to see what you're looking for, see if anything is appealing. I highly suggest starting off there first, because then there are some expensive fonts. For instance, we reverse it and go price high to low. I mean, we're looking $20. It's crazy. $14. $15. So if you click on one of these fonts and you're like, okay, I kind of like this, let's see what all it contains of. It'll give you a description of what the font is. You can actually say you were designing this for something and you wanted to see what the your wording was going to be. This is a great way to test it out before you purchase it. So we were going to type hello or welcome. I think my internet's running slow today. This is where it would pop up right here and it would show you what your text would look like. For some reason, my internet is not cooperating today. Then it tells you who created this font. Say you really like this font, you want to keep track of what else this person is going to be creating with this font. You can actually click the little star and you can follow them, and then you'll be able to see what all other fonts he has. Let's see if we can, let's click on this one. There we go. So for instance, we wanted to see what our words were going to look like, our wording for our project. We could type in hello and you can get a preview of what your fonts are going to look like. This way you can decide, yes, I like it. No, I don't. Let's keep looking and go from there versus paying, again, this one's one of the expensive ones, $17. And then it also have the glimpse, which are other special characters, numbers, dollar signs, and you can see what those will end up looking like as well. So just some quick tips on that, but let's go ahead and I'm going to purchase one of these fonts that I have. I'm actually really liking this Autumn Vibes. So I'm going to go ahead and move this to my cart. And we will go ahead and check out. So for $2.99, I'm going to purchase this font. It's going to ask you, do you want the commercial version? That's up to you. How are you going to be using this? when you select the commercial version, sometimes there is a price difference. So we'll go ahead and just select that commercial version. Commercial versions are usually, if we're going to keep reproducing as we do with signs. So I will let you decide on that version. For instance, if you decide, no, I don't want it, you can hit the little the trash can and you can delete it. So as you can see, the commercial version is now $12.99 versus the $2.99. So we'll go ahead and just select the regular one, and we're going to check out. So it's asking, are you aware of the terms, your typical standard terms, and my password. What's my password? Hate remembering these things, these passwords. So it's going to say, thank you for your order. Here's your order number. And it will ask you, do you want a direct download? Or you can select always directly download it for the future. We can click yes and hit direct download. And now we can go back to our silhouette to go find our font. So let's click. Sorry. There we go. So here we are. We're back to our silhouette document. We're going to go down to the left-hand side of your screen. There's going to be, this is where your library is. And we're going to click on the arrow to expand the library. So if you can see down here on the left-hand side, it is saying it is syncing. Because we did purchase the font, it's syncing to directly download my font. So it's saying I've got a green check mark, which means my font has successfully synced in. So a way to check that is we're going to click fonts. And there it is. And this will actually show you all the fonts that you have downloaded. So let's go ahead and let's try out our new font that we have. So if you remember on the left-hand side, the letter A is where we're going to select our fonts. And let's just say welcome autumn. Since we're getting ready for fall. Okay, so if you notice, I created two separate lines. I could have very well put this all on one. I hope I spelled that right. I hope we could have very well have put this all on one line. But the reason I didn't want to do that is because when you put it all on one line, if you move it, we're going to shrink it and expand it. So if we're creating a project, if we're creating a sign, sometimes we want to be able to move the words one there, possibly one there, or we might have an image and then we want our image right here in the center, and so we want autumn down below. So that is why I separate my words. But if you know for a fact that you're not going to be doing any separation, you can completely just put it all on one line. So we'll go back to this and we're going to select it, and we're going to go to our little A with the pencil for our font panel. These can get kind of confusing. Oops, let's move this. I'm sorry, it's the little A with the line, not the pencil. That's if we're going to be creating a font, which we can get into at a later time. So here are all of our fonts that we have. As I mentioned in our previous basic video, all of your fonts that you have incorporated, if anything you've loaded from the font or design bundles or any one of those other fonts features, they will be here as well. So that is actually kind of nice that all of our fonts, because sometimes we have favorite fonts that we've purchased from other places and we want to use them here in Silhouette. So here is our Autumn Vibes. So if we click on it, you can see how it has changed the wording. So we want to go ahead and click all of that. If you know the font you want to use, you can type it here, and because we do, and it'll automatically populate. And if you notice, I didn't put the entire word, I just typed in a couple of letters and it populated. So that's another quick feature instead of having to scroll through all your fonts, as many of us have many fonts, but I know there's some of us that have just some favorite fonts, so we can just simply type in a few letters and it will automatically populate. Okay, so let's make this a little bit bigger. So again, as I had mentioned below, as I mentioned in our previous video, here is where we can, if we know we want to make it bigger, smaller, if you know your point character spacing that you want to use, you can fill it in there. Here is the character spacing, which means the letters in between. So if we want to spread them out a little bit more, we can definitely either arrow up, we can type in our spacing, or use our little slider. Let's go ahead and use our slider just so we can see what's going on. So if you noticed, there are now, our wording is now spaced out a little bit more versus at 100%. And 100%, of course, is the norm. So for whatever reason, if you really needed to get these spaced out, you would just increase your slider. If you, so let's go back to 100%. That's our normal. So if for some reason you need these to be closer together, if you're looking for a more smashed, closer look, we could definitely, you can see how they just become more compressed, more together. You know, if that is the look that you're going for. So those are just some easy features that this allows. And I think sometimes we forget that these features are available. So when we're creating things, we kind of just go with the font, or we're looking for a font for the spacing, and sometimes we're not finding it. So that's just a really good way to access those types of capabilities that this software has. Again, you can, I do have the business edition. Remember, if you do not remember what edition you have, just look up here and it will tell you. But that feature is actually available also in the basic. So, so let's go ahead and space this out some more, or not space it out, let's just enlarge it. So I made one bigger than the other one, and we will just, let's move this down below. Trying to get them somewhat similar. Okay, so so they are in black. So if we wanted to change the color on these, we could actually do it a couple of different ways. If you go to our left-hand side, we've got our color panel, and we can select the color that we want. So we want to do a little bit of orange, and maybe. So the one thing I like about this color panel is there's a couple of different features. So number one, it will actually, the left first color is the last color that you used, and on down the line. So for instance, you used something a couple of projects ago and you really liked that purple that you used on whatever, there it is. So that's a really nice feature that it remembers the last color you used. The other thing I like about this is if you notice down here, we've got our white to black. Oops, we've got white to black. And then it's got all these other colors. So if you were going for that ombre look, it's got all the different shades. So we've selected this dark orange. So let's make this autumn a little bit lighter. So I like that. This doesn't want to stay on. I like this because you can pick those different shades or the variants of a color without having to go and pick and choose on a color wheel. Is this the one that should be used? That's too dark, that's too light, that's not orange enough, whatever the case is. I like the fact that it's gone from dark to actually all the way to extremely pale. And as you can see that it put the very lightest one, then there's that medium color that we selected, and then our dark color. And because I selected the medium tone, it came back to the front of the panel. So I really like that. The other thing is you can actually create a color. So for instance, I am not seeing anything that I like here. We can go to the little painters. Whoops, this is our favorite. This is our palettes. Okay, it's not. Okay, let's do it on this side. So that's one way you can change the coloring of your words, your letters, your fonts, I'm sorry. The other way is, and if you go to the little painter's palette on the right-hand side, this is just a quick, I know what I want basic colors, here they are. If we want to get a little bit more detailed, a little bit more, we want to spice up our project a little bit more, we can hit this little painter's palette. And just move me out of the way. Again, it's got these same features right here. You can actually create a palette. So for instance, you wanted to put a bunch of fall colors together. You have this fall palette that you like. You could create something that says fall and put all of those colors together, and they would all be lined up right there, so you wouldn't have to go searching for those. The other thing is this transparency. This is where transparency that it's easier to show you. So if you start moving your slider, you can see how it starts fading all the way to a white. So that's if, and when you do that and you have a background behind it, that background is going to start showing through. So for instance, let's just draw this box. And let's just make this, this khaki color. So if we take this, oops, we take this and we start moving the transparency, you can see how that brownish is starting to come through. So if we were going to use a pink background, the same thing. That pink is going to start to come through. Okay. This is what I was looking for. Okay, so for instance, so here is our color that we've selected from our color swatches up here. And it shows you on the color bar here exactly where it is, right there. So several different reasons we would want to come here. Say, for instance, you wanted rose gold, and none of these were meeting your rose gold needs. You could, number one, start maneuvering the little circle over, and you can see, and if you notice when I clicked it, it changed it to the purple, and then it moved my purple swatch to the front. You could start moving it until you found a particular color that you liked. So with that being said, say I liked this color. If we hit the plus sign, it adds it to our palette here, to this palette. Second thing we could do is, if you're familiar with hex codes, we could enter it right here. So let me go find real quick a hex code for rose gold. Let me see. And what I'm just doing is I am just going to Google rose gold, gold hex codes, code number. There's not a particular site that I go to or anything like that. So I've used this site before, so we'll just go ahead and go to that site. And then from here, we can select the color that we want. This is the color that it's showing. Okay. Are you happy with it? Yes or no? Say you're looking for more of this color. Yes, that's the color that I'm looking for. So we'll go ahead and copy and paste this code. And we're going to copy and paste it right here. I didn't like my copy and paste. Okay, it's not liking my copy and paste. So I just wrote it down. Hit enter. And there is the color, that hex code that we just copied or typed in. I didn't have my word check, sorry. And there is that pink that we selected, that we got the hex code from. So again, several different ways to pick colors and fonts. And this can also come into when we're doing our shapes also. So we can use these exact same shapes that we just did. So if we like this pink, we can actually save it to our favorites. So it will be there for next time. And there it is. And then we can use it for our other project. So let's just put this back to that medium orange. So that's the nice thing about this right here is that transparency. So the next thing is right here is it's called fill gradient, which means it's going to give you that ombre effect. And there are several already presets. There's a number of presets here. So for instance, if we wanted this to be something like that, if you can see, let me make it a little bit bigger. If you can see how it's just kind of got that kind of peachy orangey tones. Let's pick a different, there's a purple, so it goes kind of purple to lavender, and all of these are already preset. So that's a nice, you don't have to worry about selecting colors and getting them positioned correctly because they've already done the work for you. Like I said, there's just so many of these. That looks very Halloween. So they've already taken the guesswork out of there for you, and you don't have to do that. You can do it yourself. So let's pick one of those. So say you like this style, you like this format, you would start clicking on these to start making changes to your color selection. So if for whatever reason you couldn't find something here that you liked, you could definitely change it. Say you were looking for something like this. If you noticed the black, the magenta, and then the lighter colors are set up. And so we could just select something. So for instance, say you don't like this shade, you want this shade. We're going to go ahead and just click that and select a different color that we've already know about, or one from our palette down here. And you can see how it's just transitioned. Or we can select one from our little color rainbow down here palette. It's not really a palette, I don't know what to call it. And you can see that it's changing that. So for instance, say we didn't want the black, the darker one, say we wanted it to be blue to the purple. Well, we've now changed it, or we want yellow to purple. So you can actually create a new one specifically for what you are needing. So again, it takes the guesswork out, trying to pinpoint where you need to put these. And because I know I've tried doing this myself and it's just really difficult. I can never get the spacing, the shading correct. So this just takes the guesswork out of that. And then if you wanted to save it, you would just add it, you would just click the plus sign and it will save it for you right there. And you can change any of these that you want. So see, it's going from this hot pink to a white. Say we're not a fan of the hot pink, we want more of a darker green. And there it is. Or again, say we've got one of those hex codes from the website, this rose gold, and there is that rose gold ombre effect. And we could actually save that to our palette and it would be there for the next time we wanted to do something. As you can see, I was playing with a couple of different ones and I just added them. And you can name these palettes. I haven't named them, I just add them. So the next, so that is gradient. Again, it can give your project a whole different look, a whole different feel to it, just by changing some of these features here. You know, so we've got this welcome and then we've got this kind of ombre. The next thing is probably one of my favorites, is our fill patterns. So these are backgrounds that we've selected that we've purchased from the store. we've actually imported, and I will show you how to import one of those as well. So some of these were already preloaded. So what we can do is you can select on any of these patterns, select your word, and it will change it to that pattern. So again, we've got all these. Here's some type of argyle. And it's changed your words there. So these are all preloaded up here on top. Anything that you've purchased, anything that you've downloaded or inserted would go right here. So I don't know if some of y'all are familiar with clipping mask. This just avoids that. This is just a simple click of the button, and we've now got different font or different patterns going on with our words. Now, let's see, let me take, trying to find, here's a good one. You might be able to see. No, I think I like this one. Okay. So here is our pattern. We like this. Welcome, autumn. If we go to advance, the one thing that I use on this is actually the scale button. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Okay. So you can see how the sunflowers, the pattern is. If we hit this scale, again, sliding it left to right, right making it bigger, left making it smaller. When we start adjusting this, it's going to adjust our pattern. So if we want these sunflowers to be smaller, we can just start moving it to the left, and you can see how small our pattern is. And if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see how closely these sunflowers are. Now, if we start moving it to the right, you can see that the sunflowers are getting really big, and you're getting more of the reds, and the sunflowers are a lot bigger than they were. So again, depending on what you are looking for, what you're trying, the effect that you're going to, this can be really helpful in trying to achieve that look. Again, especially if you're doing the like these plaids, that's really big plaid. So if we go back down to, you can see how the plaid is getting smaller as we go down. So there's more of a plaid look versus the plaid being extremely big. But again, if that could be what you're looking for, you might not want that small plaid. You might want that bigger plaid effect. And this is how you would achieve that right there. So that comes in, I think that's just a really useful tool. I use it often depending on the effect that I am wanting. So let's select an image and say we've got an image and we like the designs on there. Let's see what we have here. Let's see. Okay, let's just pull this pumpkin in since we are doing fall. So if you click on this, and this is your, say this is, we've got this, let me zoom back out. Here is our project. We've got our cute little pumpkin. We've got our welcome. And you're saying, you know what? I really like the font on this flower. And you want this autumn to be that. If we go to our little dropper on the left-hand side, you can get to the dropper on the left-hand side or the dropper here. We grab the dropper. If we click on it, and if you see when we've hovered over it, it's given that hex code. We click on it, it automatically picks up that color. So say we wanted the, so we'll go to the dropper. We want, so this flower has multiple shades of pinks. So if you just, and you can see when you start moving your cursor over, it starts changing that hex code. Say we like that shade. We've now changed it. Now, the difference between this dropper and this dropper, there is a difference. You might be saying, well, what's the difference? This dropper, you can actually go into this, your image, and pull the color that you want. Oops. And pull the color that you want. So we go over here to this dropper and say we wanted that red. The dropper on the left thinks we want that image as the background. That's the difference. This is convenient, yes. But see how that's not what we were wanting. We were wanting the red from the flower. So open your fill panel, your eyedropper, and grab that color. I know it's a little bit confusing, but just be cautious because everybody is automatically going to go to this eyedropper and select that pink or select whatever color. There is a way to do it. You have to ungroup your image. I don't know if I can ungroup this anymore. So we'll select that. No, sometimes you have to totally ungroup every single one of these pieces and then select the color that you want. So that gets a little bit complicated. Again, fill panel, eyedropper, eyedropper, and there we go. So you can get it from up here, select it, hover over it, and change it. So we can either go to the palette or to our color screen up there. Now, one more thing I'm going to show you is sometimes when you're cutting, if you're going to be cutting this, if you were going to be using HTV vinyl or any kind of vinyl, if you weren't going to be printing this, you were going to be using this as a cut file. I'm going to show you a trick. Let's see. So if you can see, let me just change these all to black. That might help. You can see how thin these fonts are. You can see how thin these fonts are right here. So if you remember the red, if you can see the red outline, let me see if I can make that a different color maybe. There we go. So I changed it to yellow. So you can, so if we were to cut this, as we all know, if we were to cut this, it would probably tear because of these, how thin these lines are. If we go to these line settings right here, this thickness will actually thicken up those lines. So if we start, again, I'm a big fan of the little slider versus the arrow. If we start moving this, you can see how our yellow lines are now getting thicker, which means it's going to cut thicker than it was before. So we've now given the machine a little bit more, so to say, meat. So when we cut it and weed it, we're not going to be having these really thin and flimsy pieces that we get frustrated with. If you notice, this is probably need to weld it. We would go right here and we would weld it, and there we go. So if we were to send this to the printer, or to cut it, I'm sorry. You could see how much thicker this line is versus this one. Let me see. I'm not sure why my red isn't showing up on here. We'll just use this example again. So you can see how thick the red is. Now, if I was to go back and put this back to, I go back and I change this thickness to 0 and I send it. Well, you can't really tell, but there's a difference. There is a difference. So that's just one thing to keep in mind, is when you're cutting, you can actually thicken up your cut lines, which will help in the weeding process. So that's another recommendation I have, because I know we've all had those fonts where we have attempted to cut and weed, and it just doesn't work. So I really hope you like this this week's session on fonts. I know this was a great resource, as this way you know what features you have to create the effect, the feel of your project, especially when you're making signs. Fonts have a big, big way of coming across. So that's just a few tips that will help you. So if you have any questions regarding fonts, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you with that. If you have any trouble at all, reach out to me. Again, I'm here to help, so, or anybody in the group. So hopefully this has been informative and helpful to you guys. So until next time, I will see you. And any questions, let me know. Thank you. Bye, guys.